I got a text from somebody who was like, they're going to name Espada the manager.
That's incredible.
And it happened, of course. It was the right decision for the Astros today. We've done a lot of back and forth. Guys, first of all, we survived the Brad Osmus thing.
Yes.
It didn't happen. It didn't even become...
That was scary.
Like, that's the thing that's so great about this entire process. We didn't hear another name that was legitimately linked to the Astros managerial job. I walked away from the press conference today. Dana Brown said that they did have other candidates or whatever, but he didn't even acknowledge that they interviewed anybody. I don't think they interviewed anybody. I really don't. I think that their decision always was Joe Espada, and they made the right call. They got the guy that's going to keep things going as it is. I am a very, very happy man today that we can officially talk about Joe Espada being the manager of the Houston Astros.
Yeah, I'm excited. They just had one of the things they said in the press conference that they just had a little bit ago that really has me excited for him being the choice. Everybody knows there's continuity, but he said, I know how to get these guys going. I know what it takes and what I need to do to get them going, and I'm excited to be able to do that in this capacity. And it is, if for all of the people who wanted AJ, who thought there was a world where AJ Hinch would come back and they wanted AJ Hinch, for all the people who liked Dusty Baker and the way he at least was personable and would communicate sometimes, I feel like Joe Espada gives you the best of both of those worlds and then some. And it is at 48 years old. He's on the younger side. Mm-hmm. It does feel like it's a more modern hire. It's a guy who he really does know this team. He knows these players, and you don't have to worry about a guy coming in here and trying to
change the culture.
Yeah, change the culture, instill a new culture, get guys to buy into it. These dudes are already going to be bought into who Joe Espada is. They are already bought into who Joe Espada is, what he does and what he brings to this organization. So I think this is an incredible job by the Astros to actually name him as the manager. We both said that this was, if not at the top, near the top of the list of decisions that we would want them to make for the manager position. I'm excited about this, man. The Joe Espada era, I think, is going to be very, very good for the Astros.
Yeah, I think keeping the culture together is a very important thing. These guys police themselves. These guys work. That was one thing that Dusty Baker did very well that AJ Hinch did as well. You will notice, like, I know that people don't get to go in the clubhouse and everything, and all the time that I've spent in the clubhouse throughout the years from the AJ Hinch to the Dusty Baker era was that you don't see coaches really in the clubhouse. That is the players' sanctuary. They handle their business. They're grown-ass men. They treat them like that, and that's the beautiful thing of it. I do wonder the element of going from the bench coach to the manager where there's more responsibility, where there's a different level of what you do. Like, you know, at the end of the day, Joe Espada hasn't been the manager. He's run a lot of things. He's been in charge of a lot of things, and a lot of players entrust in him and wanted him to be the manager in the first place. But there's a new level of respect that you have to have for the seat that he now sits in. He now sits in that manager's office instead of sitting in the coach's office. Like, I do have my wonders of how that goes. Like, you don't want Joe Espada to be a pushover on anything, but I don't think that the Astros players are allowed to get that way. That's just one of the things I thought about in my head this morning as I'm sitting here thinking about everything. But I think that for the large part of it is they got the move right, and we were all so concerned that Jim Crane's going to wield too much power in this. And look what happens today with the press conference. Dana Brown and Joe Espada. There's no Jim Crane, and I don't think it's meant as a sign of disrespect to Joe Espada. It is meant as a sign of, look, this was actually Dana Brown's decision. He's running the ship. The GM might have some power here, and I think that's a good thing for the Astros.
Yeah, to me, it was a sign of who has been given control and who's in control of the situation, and that's exactly how I would have wanted the press conference to be. Is exactly how it went. I didn't think about the prospect and the idea of him moving from bench coach to manager and how players would react with that. But if I had to take, Jose Altuve isn't a guy who's probably going to let a lot of shenanigans surrounding that. He's not going to let anybody get away with a lot of stuff. If I had to pick one person, okay, pick one player that you think would try to take advantage of Joe Espada first. So Joe Espada moving from bench coach to the actual manager. Who's the one player you had to choose who would just kind of forget that he's in his new role and take advantage of it a little bit?
I'm going to be completely real. I don't know if that necessarily is the case. Like, I don't know if it's even a possibility.
You don't think so? I'm going to pick Chaz. If any
Chaz
of them
is too nice. Chaz is too good.
Not take
you
advantage.
You can tell Chaz is probably the most excited person in the world today between he and Yiner Diaz, which don't freak out. I think it's a lock now that you're going to get news soon that Martin Maldonado's back. Like, go ahead and sign yourself up for that one. Prepare yourself for those of you that
I'm okay with that.
I am too. He's going to come back and he's going to back up. But
I don't mean in a bad way, like take advantage in a bad way. I just mean like talk to him as if he were still the bench coach and not necessarily the manager. Just kind of interact with him that way.
Here's the thing. I don't know that it was like a buddy system. I think there was always a level of respect. I think the best example I could give you is the way that Jeremy Pena handled being with Joe Espada. They have their fun, they do their thing, but it was work.
Yeah.
Joe Espada, and that's the kind of the Astros culture. They all demand work. And like I've told you before, you go to spring training. Joe Espada runs spring training. He's run spring training since Dusty Baker's been here. It's his show.
Yeah.
He's out there directing everything, making sure the work gets put in. So I do think it's a business first situation. Like he's the right hire. He's the right guy that knows what they're doing, that deserves his opportunity. He's deserved it for quite some time, and it couldn't have worked out better for him. I'm glad that he didn't have to go to some organization that sucked, where he'd go for a few years, lose a bunch of games, get fired. He's going to come here. He's going to win from the jump, and he's going to be in a spot where we're going to look at him in a couple of years and go, they have one of the best managers in baseball. I do think that.
Yeah, man, what a beautiful future that would be to go from A.J. Hinch to Dusty Baker, who was the right person for the job at the time, to Joe Espada, who is now the way the Astros have gone, the trajectory that they're headed in. He is the right guy for this job. And to be able to have that trio of managers within this time period is absolutely incredible. That makes me feel good and that would be your hope with Joe Espada moving from the bench coach to the manager, is to already have that culture of respect between him and the players, where it's not like, hey, you don't have to go from I'm messing around, I was the bench coach, now I'm the manager, we can't do that anymore, to we're just going to keep everything the same because we already had that relationship in the first place, which makes him even more the right hire. But I'm ecstatic right now.
I mean, I don't think that there's any other thing that you can be. And I think one of the telling things from the press conference, like we've talked about, is Dana Brown talked a lot about somebody I can work with, somebody I can collaborate with, somebody that has the communication skills. Like, I'm not trying to... The Dusty Baker era was successful. They went to the ALCS every year he was here. They were a heartbeat away from being in the World Series every single year. In the other 2 years that they didn't go to the World Series, they were one win away from the World Series in each of those years. Like, it was a successful marriage. He is he's one of the two greatest managers in the history of the franchise.
Yes,
without a doubt. He's going to have his day where they bring him back, hopefully this year, and have Dusty Day, put him in the Astros Hall of Fame, the works. But it has become more and more clear as we've moved along. It was time for a reset. And you have a GM and you have a front office and you have players that recognize that there was a disconnect between doing things how they should in terms of using analytics, all that stuff that we've talked about over and over and over again. And I feel like we're going to get back to that. We're going to get back to a manager, and he talked about it's a blend of both, like A.J. Hinch used to talk about. You have to watch things with your eyes, but you also have to use the numbers when the numbers say that you need to be used. And that's the thing that I'm most excited about, is that we can get back to playing or worrying about 21st century baseball overall and not having, well, my gut tells me that Martin Maldonado needs to be catching today. No, the numbers sometimes can tell you that something else needs to happen.
Well, and in baseball, more than any other sport, I feel like psychology plays such a big part of it. And having a guy who understands the numbers, understands the analytics, and wants to utilize them. But like you said, the best of both worlds, knows, hey, this guy's not right up here, so the numbers may not play in the favor that you think they are. Because every once in a while, you have a situation where you're like, okay, if the psychology is not there, and I know this guy is not right, he's not in the right mindset right now, or things just aren't going well, we need to do something different, because the blanket numbers that we think would be successful, that we think would be working, they're not going to work right now. We know that, and we can see that. We can see that with our eyeballs. I can see that because in my conversations that I'm having with him, how he's performing. That's when you talk about the best of both worlds, is you lean towards analytics, but you're not analytics all the time. You have to be able to stay in tune with your players, have discussions with them, and know if those numbers are going to work out in your favor. And that's what I'm most excited about, is to see that blend of the two. I feel like in the analytics-driven age of sports, as analytics continue to get more and more prominent in all of the major sports, There are so many people, the Brandon Staley's of the world, with the head coach for the Chargers, that lean too heavily into analytics, and they just don't think about the human side of things. They don't think about the psychological side of things. And Joe Espada feels like the guy who can kind of take both of those worlds, the psychology. And, there's no such thing as momentum in sports. When we talk about momentum, it's just psychology. It's just confidence levels, right?
Yeah.
And so a guy who can take those confidence levels or can take that psychology and then apply that to the analytics, that's what's going to make this team successful moving forward. And he's the guy that can do it.